They thought she was nobody. And they couldn't have been more wrong. It started on a crisp Saturday morning at Pinewood Range, the kind of place where legacy shooters polished rifles worth more than cars, where billionaires and defense contractors shook hands under bronze plaques, and where the staff wore earpieces as if guarding national secrets. And then she walked in. No entourage, no fancy gear. Just an old green parka that looked like it came from a thrift store rack, boots that had seen better decades, and a rifle case wrapped in duct tape so worn it curled at the edges like peeling bark. She was maybe in her late 60s, grey-streaked hair pulled back, no makeup, no insignia, just quiet eyes, focused forward. People stopped mid-conversation. A junior staffer at the entrance tried not to laugh as he clipped a flimsy visitor badge onto her coat. One of the younger shooters nearby muttered under his breath, "Cosplay cowgirl got lost on her way to bingo night." She didn't react. No one asked her name. No one offered help. Instead, someone tossed a metal coin across the gravel near her boot. On it, scribbled in marker, "Janitor shift." It clinked once, then spun to a stop. She stepped over it without a word. By the time she reached the main loungier space adorned with walnut panels, crystal tumblers, and commemorative rifles mounted under glass eyes, were tracking her from every corner. A group of instructors in branded quarter zips sipped coffee and shared a chuckle. Maybe she brought a mop for the 1,000-meter line, one said loud enough for her to hear. Laughter trickled around the room like a slow leak in the ceiling. No one saw her wince, because she didn't. She just kept walking, past the championship plaques, past the screens showing live telemetry, past the rows of young men and women with tactical rigs and perfect teeth. At the registration terminal, her name wasn't listed, just mock entry number 9 in bold red font. Still, she signed the waiver. 4 quick strokes, no hesitation. The staffer barely looked at it. He didn't need to. He had already decided what she was. A mistake, an extra, a background prop in someone else's spotlight. Outside, at the firing deck, things were worse. Every platform had been taken by tech-laden shooters, with teams whispering win data and holding high-end tablets. Every mat gleamed under overhead lights carbon fiber, branded gear, laser scopes. And then there was her. No assistant, no logos, no fancy mat. Just a folded jacket beside a plain case that looked like it had been rescued from a war museum. Someone snorted. She brought a musket to a laser fight. Another shouted, "Historical reenactment lanes over there, ma'am." Still, she said nothing. A woman in tactical sleeves exaggerated a groan and mimed throwing out her back. The crowd chuckled. A young man with a GoPro caught every second, already uploading it to a private stream titled, "Motel Grandma Takes the Long Shot." That's when someone, probably thinking they were being clever, leaned against the range bench and muttered, "I'll walk out on my head if she hits 5. Challenge issued. No one thought she'd accept it. Not really. But she did. She nodded once. Not to him, to herself. Then she stepped forward, toward the firing lane, marked mock entry number 9. No ceremony, no speech, just one small, quiet woman walking into a space reserved for giants. And the moment she knelt to open that duct-taped case, the laughter began to slow. Because what they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that this wasn't the first time she'd stepped onto that range. It just might be the first time anyone paid attention. She knelt on the gravel and laid the case down. The range had fallen mostly silent now, not out of respect, out of curiosity. That kind of uncomfortable hush that creeps in when a joke stops being funny, but no one knows why yet. She unlatched the case. Click. Click. The hinges groaned softly, the way something old does when it still works because it was built to last. Inside was a bolt-action rifle. Wooden stock, aged metal, no visible branding, not shiny. Not new, but clean, well kept, reverent, almost. She laid it out like she was handling something sacred. Her fingers moved with a kind of precision that wasn't rehearsed, it was earned. One by one, she placed the rounds into a dented metal tray. The scope looked older than some of the interns watching her, but when she held it to the light, the glass shimmered, clear, aligned. Still, the muttering behind her didn't stop. That thing belonged in a museum. She probably thinks Moa is a retirement account. Bet she flinches on the first shot. But then she did something no one expected. She took out a notebook. A small, leather-bound thing, weathered, cracked edges. She flipped to a marked page with her thumb, and the camera above her zoomed in just enough to catch the glimpse of handwritten ballistics charts. Slope angles, wind corrections, bullet drop, values not printed, drawn, meticulously. She scanned it for only a few seconds, then closed it with quiet finality and placed it next to her mat. It was the first real moment anyone hesitated. A senior instructor standing above the viewing deck narrowed his eyes. "She's not here to play." He didn't say it out loud, but he thought it, and that thought rippled down the tower like static. Then came the second moment. She lay down. Not awkward, not slow, like she'd done it 1,000 times in rain, in snow, in places where no one was watching. Her knees hit the mat, her elbows planted. Left hand under the stock, right over the grip. Breath in, breath out. Stillness. No fidgeting, no readjusting, no asking for help. Just readiness. And that's when something shifted. The laughter didn't return. Instead, a younger competitor seated 2 lanes over glanced toward her and paused. His assistant, mid-sentence, leaned in and whispered, "You see that?" "What?" "The way she's anchoring. That's a competition stance." Another instructor folded his arms. The same one who had joked about her throwing out her back now tilted his head, trying to get a better view. It wasn't her gear. It wasn't even the rifle. It was her stillness. There's a kind of silence only top shooters know, the one that comes before the shot, when the body becomes part of the weapon, when everything slows, when breath and heartbeat and finger pressure sync like clockwork. That's what they were seeing, and they didn't know how to process it. She didn't glance at the cameras. She didn't acknowledge the scoreboard that now flashed, mock entry number 9, 1000M qualifier, in bold red font. She didn't even flinch when someone muttered, "Guess we'll need medics when she misses and eats that recoil." No reaction. Because she wasn't here to prove anything. She was here to do something. And in that moment, even the most skeptical people on the range began to wonder, who is she? The scoreboard timer began its countdown. 10 minutes, then 9. She adjusted her sling once. Subtle, no showmanship. Her right thumb tapped the bolt gently. The action was smooth, practiced, like muscle memory from another life. Somewhere above, an intern typed into the range feed, "Legacy or lunacy? You decide." But he didn't press post. Not yet. Not when he saw the way she slid the first round into the chamber with perfect control. At the edge of the viewing deck, a man who'd been sipping from a branded tumbler lowered it and just stared. Another shooter beside him, once giddy, had stopped talking. The woman with the GoPro from earlier, her phone was now recording again, but this time, she wasn't mocking. She was quiet. And across the field, a slight gust rustled the flags lining the far ridge. She didn't move. She read the wind, not with gear, with her eyes, with her breath. She reached up just once and made a single adjustment to her scope. One click, nothing dramatic, just one tiny correction. Then her cheek found the stock again, as natural as falling asleep in a familiar bed. Someone whispered, "She's not here to shoot, she's here to remind us." Remind them of what, though? That's what they'd find out soon. Very soon, the range lights blinked. The wind hushed. And then, she fired. One soft breath out. One smooth trigger pull. One sharp crack that sliced through the air like a scalpel. Ping! The red dot appeared on the screen almost instantly. Dead center. Not just in the ring, in the exact heart of the target. No wobble, no correction, no noise. For a moment, no one moved. No one knew how to move. The scoreboard operator blinked, then blinked again. He leaned forward to reset the tracker. Surely it was a glitch, but the system confirmed the hit. She cycled the bolt. Click, clack. Another round, seated cleanly. Second shot. Same breath. Same trigger. Same crack. Ping. Another 10. So perfectly aligned with the first that the laser sensor paused, confused by the overlap. The crowd still hadn't spoken. She didn't smile, didn't gloat, didn't even glance up. She was somewhere else, in the zone where only masters live. By the third shot, the murmurs began, soft, uneasy. She's grouping inside a 1/4 inch. This has to be pre-recorded. Is that even possible on that rifle? But it was real. And she was still going. Shot 4. 10. Shot 5. 10. The sensor began blinking with heat tracking because the cluster was too tight for optical cameras to differentiate. An instructor, the same man who joked about her bringing a mop, was now gripping the railing with both hands, his eyes wide, his mouth half open. Someone whispered, "This is a simulation, right?" Another voice, softer, "Number, it's her." Shot 6. 10. Shot 7. 10. At this point, even the digital scoreboard stopped switching lanes. The entire system locked onto mock entry number 9. Shot 8. 10. No spread. No variation. No doubt. A young competitor who had earlier filmed her entrance and called her Motel Grandma was now packing up his gear in silence. Not embarrassed, not ashamed, just humbled. Shot 9. 10. The tech running the scoring system actually stood up, leaned toward the monitor, then sat back down speechless. And then, the 10th shot. No deep breath, no dramatic pose. Just the same steady rhythm. The same silence. Crack. Ping. The screen blinked. And then, 100. Perfect. 10 out of 10. Confirmed. Verified. No deductions. No decimals. Just an unbroken red cluster at the precise center of a 1,000-meter target. The sound on the range wasn't applause. It wasn't even whispering. It was something heavier. The kind of silence that follows a revelation. She sat up slowly, opened the bolt, let the final cartridge rest beside the others, then laid her hand gently over the receiver like she was tucking in a child for the night. Only then did she look up. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't know how. But someone finally said it. One voice, from the far left of the viewing deck. Wait a second. That's her. That's Evelyn Hart. Time seemed to stop. Evelyn Hart. Not just any name. The name. The founding designer of Pinewood's ballistics system. The architect behind the range's scoring algorithms. The one whose research papers shaped modern long-range doctrine. The one who disappeared from the institution 10 years ago after a silent departure, her name slowly scrubbed from records, replaced by corporate sponsorships. And yet there she was. Back. Uninvited, unannounced, and unmistakable. An old general stepped forward near the donor wall. No one had seen him arrive. He didn't speak. He didn't salute. He just walked over to the edge of the wall, where a promotional banner had been bolted over a brass plaque. He peeled it back, revealing what was there all along. Her name. No title, no decoration. Just 3 lines etched into polished metal. Evelyn Hart. Design lead, founding contributor. Trajectory systems and target design. The breath left the room like a wave. Now they understood. The thrift store parka. Her original field jacket from the first calibration test. The duct-taped rifle case? The same one she carried through storms while mapping zero drift at elevation. The notebook? Filled with calculations that predated their entire scoring system. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Because everything that mattered had just been written in fire across 1,000 meters of steel and air. She gathered her mat, stood, folded her coat, taped the case shut, and walked away. And this Timino one laughed. Not a word. Not a breath. Because the woman they had mocked was the woman who built the ground they were standing on. Evelyn Hart didn't turn around. She didn't soak in the awe. She didn't wait for applause. She didn't nod at the general or wave to the crowd. She simply picked up her Casanau, sealed again with the same frayed tape and walked off the platform like she'd just finished tying her shoes. Behind her, the range lights flickered once, then held steady. Mock entry number 9 still glowed on the board. 100 points. No wind correction needed. No spotter, no tech, no team, just her. The cameras lowered slowly. Some were still filming, but now for a different reason. They weren't there to mock. They were there to remember. At the base of the scoring tent, a staffer held a clipboard. His pen hovered above the name line. But he didn't write it. Not yet. Not because he didn't know it, but because he finally understood it. Across the benches, shooters who had jeered now sat in complete stillness. A few glanced at their own scores, then looked away. Some quietly packed their gear. Others just stared. The woman in tactical sleeves who earlier mimed a theatrical collapse hadn't moved. Her gloves remained half on, her rifle untouched. Her live stream quietly ended itself. And the instructor, the one who joked about janitor shifts? He was sitting down now, palms pressed flat on the desk, mouth covered, no words left. Down by the donor wall, the vinyl banner that had hidden Evelyn's plaque was taken down permanently. That night, a maintenance worker installed a spotlight to illuminate it from above. No ceremony, no announcement, just a light, because what mattered had never needed a mic. But something else changed too. That week, Pinewood's internal code of conduct was amended. A new line added, "Performance is not determined by pedigree." And beneath it, a note. Policy inspired by entry 9, 100-point score, recorded and verified. They didn't say her name, not officially, but everyone knew who it was. In the office archive, a quiet instructor pulled Evelyn's visitor badge from the trash. It was creased, smudged. He wiped it clean, placed it in a sealed display case, usually reserved for retired champion patches. No label, no backstory, just plastic. And silence. Months passed. The range returned to its usual hum sort of. But something lingered. At the far edge of the 1,000-meter line, where the concrete met the grass, someone noticed 3 small initials carved into the foundation. No ceremony, no fanfare. Just a silent mark left where legends tread. A girl in second-hand boots knelt down one morning and ran her thumb over those initials before loading her rifle. Her shots were scattered, wide, nervous. But her breath was steady, her posture strong, and when she missed, she smiled like she wasn't there to impress anyone, just to learn. And the instructors let her shoot as long as she needed. Back inside, a few of the old-timers watched the footage from that day, the one no one dares to cut or edit, the perfect 10. The footage now kept on a locked drive labeled Legacy, confirmed. No commentary, no overlays, just Evelyn Hart. Lying flat on a mat, eyes in the scope, breath like glass, changing everything with silence. She never asked for her name to be restored. She never returned. She didn't need to, because the system she built had already spoken with absolute clarity, and the truth she carried in every shot had been loud enough to shatter generations of arrogance. So, what's the lesson here? Maybe it's this. Greatness doesn't wear designer logos. It doesn't ask permission to speak. It doesn't demand applause. It just shows up quiet, steady, unshakable, and lets the results speak for themselves. Evelyn Hart didn't need to argue. She didn't need to shout, humiliate, or defend her right to stand at the line. She stood anyway, and when the dust settled, her truth stood taller than all of them. They mocked her for how she looked, for what she wore, for the dust on her boots and the duct tape on her case. But when it came time to deliver, she didn't miss, not once. And in that silence that followed, they heard the loudest truth of all. Some people shout to be heard, others just aim true and let history echo their name. She didn't break, she didn't bend, she didn't explain, she didn't need to. She was Evelyn Hart, and that was enough.